that makes sense.
Would you like to add something in this comment?
So many, yes.
The last one.
My turn. Okay. My turn to welcome you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vassilis, for this opportunity. Nice discussion we had. John, you're so young and already so experienced in business. I feel that the majority of the people here would love to see themselves in a future like your course by now. I studied a little bit about you. So I read somewhere you say there is no manual for entrepreneurship.
Yes.
But what would you define this specific characteristic that someone needs to have to own in order to make this endeavor last and to end up the result?
Yeah, you know, I speak a lot about the characteristic of entrepreneurs and what makes an entrepreneur. And a lot of it's a debate. The difference between nature and nurture. Are entrepreneurs born? Are they learned? Are they created? Does it matter how you were raised? Does it matter what your parents did for a living? Does it matter where geographically you were raised? Or is it just simply who you are as a human being? And they're interesting debates, and I have pretty, I would say, bold opinions on all those topics. But I want to ask a question quickly. Who are entrepreneurs here? Who wants to be in the room? No middle ground, yes or no? Come on, hands up or hands down? Okay, so probably a third or so. Who started a business in there? Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to say is probably going to sound very, I would say, natural to a portion of the group, probably the ones who raised their hand, because I tend to exist on the spectrum that entrepreneurs are more born than made. It's more nature versus nurture. That's not to say that you can't become a better entrepreneur. That isn't to be said that at school it can be very helpful towards business. But the inherent characteristics of entrepreneurs, the tolerance for risk, the obsession with problem solving, the kind of natural sales acumen that so many of us have, the craziness that we have to have as entrepreneurs. This stuff doesn't change a lot throughout one person's life. Those are pretty inherent, baked-in characteristics of a human being that you may or may not have. If you have them, can you adapt and become better at them and improve them? Absolutely. But if you simply do not have them, I use my mother as the example all the time. My mother is not an entrepreneur, and no matter how much school she would go to and how much mentoring she could get, she could never, in her wildest dreams, run a business. She's an amazing person, but she would not want to. She would be horrified at what it takes. She's not the kind of person who would have to push and stress and pressure. She's just frankly too lovely and gentle of a person to do what is a brutal occupation, being business and entrepreneurship. I also look at these other industries where it takes very special people. I often look at like actors and musicians and these kind of people with inherent gifts of some kind. Today, right now, if I spent every waking moment between now and the day I die trying to be a famous actor, it just isn't going to happen. I am just not an actor. There's no way I'm going to become an actor. No matter how much schooling or how much training, I am just simply not an actor. I understand that. That's how I feel about entrepreneurship. I feel like it is baked in, at least the inherent characteristics. But it then takes a tremendous effort to make it real, to make it happen, and to find success and to build something that becomes a real business. So that's kind of how I see the characteristics of it.
Can I ask at least for a definition of yours for opportunity?
Definition of opportunity?
Yeah.
How do you mean?
There are projects and proposals of possible partners, or you explore possible projects that you would try to develop. What is the thing that would make you decide to spend more time and energy?
Got it.
Because you see the opportunity.
It's a great question. So today my attention and capital is split in three ways. I invest in businesses and I get involved in companies where I know I can provide some of the required either momentum or capital to a young business that has a somewhat small chance of success, admittedly, but in the process, if they do achieve success, it would be extremely outsized, it'd be a tremendous result, and it's generally in industries where tech is not the founding core of the business, where tech could enable the business, such as fashion and retail are two examples of this. And I know there are industries where I can learn a tremendous amount. I call them tuition investments. It's not unlike going to school, where I'm willing to put some capital up. I'm going to learn a lot, get involved in a new network, a new kind of business, a new supply chain, a new industry, and also have a chance of tremendous success, of outsized success. That's one category I spend a lot of time on today.
But you said that tech is not the core of
Exactly. So for
more
instance,
traditional means.
the shoes I'm wearing today are a company called the Grand Voyage, and I'm one of the investors and owners of this company. Handmade Italian shoes. I know nothing about fashion, footwear, etc. The guy who's founded it had already built a multi-$100 million shoe company. So he's the shoe guy, and it's maybe one of the best in the world. It's an industry I'd love to learn more about in terms of manufacturing, supply chain, retail, fashion, etc. And tech, I believed, could have a tremendous impact on his business, even though it's not a tech business.
As a tool or as
Yeah, as a medium for transaction, for marketing, for sales, etc. So I knew I could bring some interesting insight to him. I would learn a tremendous amount. It wasn't an outsized investment. And if he does succeed and does what he did last time, it would prove to be very, very fruitful. So I like those kind of investments, and that's one category that I work in. Another category is the exact opposite, are businesses where I know that I can personally push it much further than it could without me. Either because I have a network of connections where I know that that can be very leveraged by a business, or it's a tech business where obviously my 20 plus years of being in tech could help them tremendously, or some kind of extremely outsized competitive differentiation I could bring to the table based on my experience. And in those businesses, I try to take a huge piece of the business and become very involved and very hands-on. The third category is are projects that I run myself and we do ourselves. So, for instance, I have a number of large practices in Mykonos right now, here in Greece. And we do real estate, we do hospitality, retail, we have a concierge service, a number of things. These are businesses that I own, and some of my partners will own with me, but ones that I start, brand, market, manage, and try to push to the finish line. So between the three categories, there's, I actually don't know, 20 or 30 businesses that I'm involved in at the moment, adding more every month. And so it's a lot of different focuses right now.
And if there was one that you had to choose?
Choose to spend all my time on?
Yeah.
I couldn't. It'd be torture to me to ever have to do one thing for very long. So.
Can I ask you a last thing, and then
Yeah.
Jens and Vassilis can take the floor. You are also strong supporter of charities,
Yes.
and so my question is this: how do you combine charities and maybe non-profit purposes with this for-profit mentality?
Sure.
And what's the common ground and the totally different
Yeah,
things?
it's a really good question.
Words.
And I think an interesting discussion around where is the overlap between philanthropy and humanitarian efforts in making the world a better place against pure capitalism and pure corporate business growth. When I was a bit more of an idealist, we'll call it younger years, I believed there was a very stark overlap between the two. That you could run a business and still have a tremendously positive impact on the world one way or the other. As I, let's say, matured through business a little bit, I believe that less and less and less today. And that doesn't mean that I don't think that businesses could and should do well, but being truly philanthropically focused is a complete contrast to the point of a business, which is to be a capitalistic venture and to make money and to return profits to shareholders and do all these things. So my mindset today is to purely separate them. My businesses are purely businesses, but then I leverage all of the positive outcomes to then run my nonprofit, to donate to volunteers, to build practices that will actually help the world, and those are their pure focus. So I kind of now believe in more of of a peer focus between both enterprises, which can end up helping each other, not necessarily inside the same environments.
Great. Although, if I may add, in US, charity is very hardcore business, and the structure is very demanding. We have a different mentality here in Europe. That's why I mentioned that.
Yeah, you know, but in America, it's extremely flawed. Extremely flawed. The concept of the 501c3 or the nonprofit, because they are expected to run with unbelievable efficiency, 85, 90, 95% efficiency. And any fraction of a dollar that isn't given towards the cause is looked at very negatively. What's insane is that a corporation is going to run with, 80% inefficiency, 20% profit margins. But they're expected to be run the same way. They need to have high-paid CEOs and executives and teams. So how do you possibly run them in the same way when they're frankly gauged and judged on such different metrics? And it creates a massive inefficiency because if you allowed nonprofits to run in the same format as a normal for-profit entity, they would actually be able to do tremendously better work, but no one's willing to hold them to that standard.
So John, you're a multi-traveler and a cosmopolitan investor, let's say. Is Greece a great place to invest? Besides sun, sea, Greek food and hospitality?
I hope so.